From fabulous Las Vegas, PartyPoker.net presents Powerful Poker Profits, starring Vegas Vic himself, Victor H. Royer. And now, here's Vegas Vic.
Hello and welcome to our show. This episode is part 2 of our 3-part series on No Limit Texas Hold'em tournaments. In this program, we are going to discuss some of the most important strategies that are required for successfully navigating your way through the tournament structure, as well as the many thousands of players you are likely to face in modern No Limit events. Whether you are playing a small buy-in tournament, on the internet or in the real world, successful tournament play requires an entirely different set of skills and a different way of thinking than you would normally employ in traditional cash games. Playing in a tournament presents specific challenges that you can learn to overcome. So, to continue with this discussion, let's go to the table. Today, poker tournaments are everywhere. From as little as $5 to as much as $50,000 or more, the range of available tournaments has grown proportionately to the global interest in the game of poker. Gone are the days when only a handful of people would compete for the top prize and crown the champion. These days, no matter what kind of tournament that you enter, there will always be hundreds and often thousands of players against whom you will have to compete. Given these simple facts, playing poker tournaments is not only a challenge to simply survive into the money, but an even greater challenge to actually make the final table and then win. There are many skills that successful tournament poker players must have available and must successfully use and apply during the course of the tournament to even have the slightest chance of coming out on top. Among these skills are patience, physical stamina, mental balance, concentration, adaptability, and a wide range of poker skills to which all of these apply. Throughout any poker tournament, you will face not only opponents of varying degrees of skill and experience, but also the relentless rise of the blinds and antes as each level unfolds. To help you overcome those challenges, in this program, we will present a series of the most salient points, along with brief descriptions that will help you on your road to success. Playing in a poker tournament not only requires card-playing skills, but even more importantly, people-playing skills. As you progress deeper and deeper into any tournament, your success will be determined not only by the cards you have, but more so by the cards your opponents don't have. Specifically, this means you will be playing your opponents more than the cards. Most people will exhibit distinct tendencies in how they play their cards. This is particularly true for poker tournaments. You can identify their playing tendencies by paying attention to specific behavioral characteristics. Among these are the following: playing zones, early round aggression, paying to draw, and betting the right amount. Recognizing these tendencies and how well such players react to them will help you categorize them into either novice or knowledgeable players. This will help you understand their potential skill level. For example, one of the easiest ways to classify an opponent is to determine what his or her playing zones are. This you can do by observing the kind of cards that your opponents are showing, as well as how they played them. You can also help classify your opponents by exactly how aggressive they are in the early stages of the tournament. Before antes kick in, most knowledgeable tournament players will play cautiously and will only infrequently become involved in any pot. Amateur players, on the other hand, will often overbet the pot and generally show too much aggression in the early rounds. Your best strategy is to stay out of their way unless you pick up a premium hand with which you can trap them. Save your aggression until the antes kick in and the blinds are higher, because this will be far more profitable. Just remember to bide your time and wait. Another way to identify novice and excited opponents is to notice how much they are willing to pay for any draw. By that I mean draws to hands such as straights and flushes, and chasing pairs or two pairs, even when it's obvious they are facing made hands that are better than what they are hoping to catch. Betting the right amount is also a skill that can be acquired and learned, and one that successful tournament professionals use as a very powerful weapon. Performed correctly, betting the right amount means that you can manipulate your opponent's odds and actions. Now that you have identified your opponents, it is time to discuss some of the important points of navigating your way through the stages of the tournament. We call this playing the tournament stages. They are divided into early stages, middle stages, late stages, near the bubble, in the money, and of course the final table. Within each tournament, you will need to play through all of them. This is a long haul, but here are some hints to help you make it through. In the early stages, the majority of players will be either novice or amateur. Therefore, spend your time at these stages analyzing your opponents and classifying them and their playing zones as we discussed earlier. Play tight, conservatively, and do not overplay or overbet the pots. There will be time later on for more profitable plays. In the middle stages, this is where you will begin to play your opponents more than the cards. Psychology will now become extremely important, your ability to read your opponents equally as important, and the knowledge you obtained from observing your opponents in the early stages will now pay off. By the time you get to the late stages, the field of players will have narrowed considerably. Now there will be more of the experienced and knowledgeable players left, and fewer of the novices and amateurs. When players arrive near the bubble, which are usually the last few positions before everybody else makes it into the money, the novice players will usually shut down, happy to make it into the money, and therefore they will not try to get involved unless they have really good hands. Consequently, they are prime targets for blinds and anti-steals. They can also be forced to fold their hands if you play them strongly. This also applies to any other player who is exhibiting survivalism, regardless of the size of the stack. More experienced players, on the other hand, will recognize this as the prime opportunity to acquire chips. They will therefore play strongly and forcefully, particularly from late positions. This is also the attitude you should adopt as the best strategy near the bubble. Once the bubble bursts, that means everybody else left in the tournament has now made it into the money. Usually there will be a lot of cheering, almost immediately followed by loose and reckless play, particularly from novice players who have just made a payday. This will also apply to short stacks as well as medium stacks. All of a sudden, there will be a frenzy of all-in moves and other reckless play. This can be very dangerous, but also profitable. Make sure you don't get involved unless you have premium hands. That is the way to pick up all those loose chips and make the most of your opportunities. If you are fortunate to make it to the final table, your best strategy is to first assess your opposition by treating it as a single table tournament. Early into play on the final table, apply the same strategies and the same patient approach that you have used successfully in the early stages. Divide your final table strategy into 3 parts. Part 1 is the cautious and observational period. Part 2 is the selectively aggressive approach, and Part 3 is the aggressive final push towards the championship. Playing through Part 1 should get you to at least the final 5. Playing through Part 2 should get you to at least the final 3. And playing through Part 3 should get you heads up and eventually the championship. Perhaps the most important piece of information for you to remember from this episode is the fact that the value of your tournament chips decreases as the blinds and antes increase. Tournament levels are designed precisely for this reason, in order to force players into playing a wider variety of hands and employ more skill as the blinds and antes begin to grind away and diminish the value of their accumulated chips. Many of the most successful poker professionals call this one of their most important keys to tournament success. It is for this reason that stealing the blinds and antes in the late stages of a tournament is essential in order to keep pace with the value of your remaining chips. We will continue this discussion in Part 3 of our series on advanced strategies for no-limit Texas Hold'em tournaments. For now, and until next time, remember to play smart and play to win. I'm Victor H. Royer, and this has been a presentation of PartyPoker.net. Bye.
This has been a presentation of MRM Entertainment Inc. in association with Nevada Production Studios and partypoker.net.